Let's see if it goes live now. Now it says I'm live. Weird.
Oops. I accidentally clicked on somebody else's live video.
Let's see if it stays
Oh,
live.
here we go. Play.
Is it playing?
Yeah, you're on there.
Am I on here?
Let's see if I can.
Why does YouTube make this difficult sometimes?
Yeah.
Did I thank William in there? Did that part
I
get
don't know.
cut off? If not, thanks William for throwing $20 at me. And the question he had was, how do we get this live stream thing more scheduled? I wish it was more scheduled, but it's been hectic. Things keep coming up, and personal things, actually, not even business things lately. So it's been really tough to nail down the live stream. I've had to deal with all kinds of family matters, and those things sometimes are priorities. Especially when you have elderly parents that require things and hospital trips, blah, blah, blah. So my schedule, and to top it off, my daughter got a flat tire on her way to her new job, so I had to go get that fixed and fun stuff. So that's why the stream actually did not happen earlier today, is when it was going to happen. Everything else happened. So now that those things are all addressed, we can talk about other things on the live stream and things like that here. So let me think here. What else do we have? A few people messaged me about things. But the first thing I'm going to talk about, and I put it in the title first, so I'm not the clickbaiter where you do it secondary. So we're going to go over here to firewall, pfBlocker. So this is pretty cool. So for those of you that don't know, pfBlocker, I've done videos on it, but this is their next generation one, and it's pretty sweet. So we've been testing it. I've been testing it over at the office and here, and we've used it for a long time, but I haven't been really digging into the new one because we tried it and I found little quirks. And I've actually talked to developer Awesome. I'm a Patreon supporter of the developer, and if you just look up pfBlocker, you'll find their website and their Patreon and things like that. And he had done a lot of code updates and wanted me to review it a little while ago. I just did not have the time to do so, and the kind of got away from me. But so I've seen some push updates and things like that. I'm like, okay, I'll take a look at this. And I set it all up, and it seems to be working wonderful. I haven't had any problems with it at office or at home. And, this, since at home here, you can see I've got like 5,000 domains blocked here, 2155 here. It's quite a bit of blocking it's been doing. So it's definitely awesome. Definitely doing its job there. So, hey, it's Willie. Yep. It does such a good, yeah, sometimes you do have to turn it down a bit, so, yeah. So, compensates for poorly written apps. Actually, it's funny because when you start looking at the phones, how many requests they make to ad tracking servers, wow. When someone comes in, we were testing phones, and if you load a couple games on the phone, man, the phones dominate how many address requests and things like that. I'm going to ask Willie a question, because I bet his opinion, if Willie has a second to answer this, is probably the same. Is people always want me to review these essentially retail consumer facing magic boxes, and this one's been around a little while, and I don't know. I mean, I'm skeptical on it greatly. It's called the firewall, and I tell people, if you want to buy one and send it to me, if I find the time, I'll review it. The reality is my reviews are always based on real world usage, and I don't use this. I don't really plan to use this. And if I'm not mistaken, it works not as a router, but by ARP spoofing your network. And I don't know. It's just not a box that makes a lot of sense to me. I can't believe it does what it, yeah. I see Willie, being that he's a network engineer, he gets it right away. He says, if it's not acting as a router, it's ARP spoofing the network, and exactly. I don't think, to me, I mean, obviously it's only a consumer thing. You wouldn't want this in your corporate environment, for one. Two, it's one of those things, like, it makes a lot of tall claims, and they're just not really feasible with it. So it's, to me, not a great solution. And the other problem I have, their whole business model is broken. And any kind of company has a business model that doesn't make sense. And let me tell you why it doesn't make sense. So this little magic box does all of its magical features, privacy protection and ad blocking, and free updates by talking to their server that they don't charge you for. That's where the problem comes into. If these devices are talking to a server or through a server to connect the apps and get the feature updates, that requires some level of money to manage those servers, and they don't seem to have a business model. If they're not charging you for those features, then at some point someone will quit paying the server bill, unless their goal is, and this is a lofty goal at this, to sell enough hardware to keep the server going. So they're hoping enough people will keep buying said magic little boxes, and it will keep the flow of money to keep the servers on. Now, this has happened in a lot of IoT devices. One of the more notorious ones, I believe it was Home Depot, what happened if we spoof its own Mac? There we go, that's fun. But I think this happened to one of the Home Depot, and is Home Depot or Lowe's, they got behind a product, and the product name eludes me at the moment, but someone could probably throw it here in the chat. When they shut down the cloud for that IoT device because the company went out of business, all the magic light switches stopped doing the magic. They wouldn't turn on and off, so they were stuck in the last position because they didn't have a controller to talk to. And this is with any of these devices that use central cloud management for all of their connections and data. If there's not a business model to keep that cloud working, it may stop working at some point in time. So it has a limited amount of life. So yeah, there's lights that were at Best Buy too. There's a lot of different companies. One of the companies was bought for their intellectual property, right? And when they purchased the company, is one company buying another company. They shut down the cloud for them because they didn't care about the consumers that had bought the product. They just wanted some other technology that was there. So anytime you're thinking about any of these devices, and that's one of the reasons I don't have any of them at my house, is you have to really think about what's the life of this product. Is it something like, especially when you talk about light switches, is there a manual mode for it? Because once it can't talk to the cloud anymore, toss it. Unless it's open source, unless you can self-host the cloud instance yourself, unless you can do something with it. Or if they're charging for the cloud service, that's different too, because maybe you find that acceptable if they charge for their cloud service, but that's at least a business model around charging for the cloud service. Therefore, they should stay in business in theory. So, it's one of those really, really annoying problems with it. And sorry, I'm on my laptop, so I don't know about I heard someone say high-pitched noise. I didn't hear it. Hey, Willie, take care. I'll catch you. I'll message you sometime. We probably should chat again sometime. Me and Willie talk from time to time about networking stuff and being YouTubers and all the weird clients we get. We have conversations about it. Anyways, take care, Willie. But yeah, I don't know about the high-pitched sound. Sorry, I'm on my laptop. I don't know what to do about that particular thing. I don't hear anything high-pitched here. This is not going to be a real long vlog because I am pretty tired right now. But I wanted to cover a couple things, though. The other thing I'm going to be doing a video on really soon, and I do have it loaded because I've been working on it even remotely, is I have a system running the new 11.3 for FreeNAS, and it's awesome. I can't show you it here because if I were to do that here, hold on, what is? You guys get to see how there we go. So you try to see how I see things. If I switch to it here, it'll break the stream because I have to set up a VPN back to my office. I don't have a FreeNAS here at all. So I will mention that I'm going to be doing a video really soon because even though it's in beta, they made some nice UI enhancements that I really like. There's a lot of features coming on it, so that's pretty cool. We're also, you've seen the video, and the disruptions and me being out of the office yesterday, I didn't get to do it, but I do have a goal of doing some on-site video for that camera job. So that's actually, the camera job's going to be happening Monday and Tuesday, I think. So I'm going to go out there, fly my drone, and hi, Marcus. Fly my drone around and do an on-site video with that. So we're going to talk about how we installed it. We talked, me and Brett talked about how the sale came through, how we bid the project. So the next step's going to be diving into like how we engineered it, because it's got several outdoor job boxes, some site-to-sites, cameras going in different locations around the building, and the person that I'm doing it for, he knows me from YouTube as well. So I'll probably be doing some videos with that person as well. So that's going to be pretty cool, being able to do all that. So that's going to be kind of fun. But jump back over to pfBlocker real quick, because one of the things about pfBlocker is all the different IP block lists on here let me show you something about how the feeds work. This is actually, I'm getting ready to do a deep dive video into it because as I understand right now, even though it's still technically the development version, it's really close to what the final code's going to look like. But look how much easier they added. If you want to add certain feeds in here, if I wanted to put this feed, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to disrupt any connections right now. But if you just click the plus and you can just add a feed, or you can click on an existing one and remove that feed, and it has all the different custom ones. And here's what's cool. By default, the default feeds include the Talos Snort that is in there, Internet Storm Center, and Spam House. So some of these are built in. So the new pfBlocker allows you to automatically check these, or comes automatically with their wizard. I'm going to start with the wizard when I do the video. Creates the rules, and away you go. It just drops stuff in, and you're just like a couple checkboxes away. The other nice thing about it is when you're going through the alerts, we're like right here. Well, these are also more feeds, so you can, how often do you want these? This is the other feed list, those, and reports. Oh, by the way, this is running on an SG 1100. That's what I use at home, and it's working quite well. So here's the alerts going in there, IP block, IP permit. Now, from here, you can actually go through and re-add things back in. So they made it really easy to go in here and just fix things. So you can go, okay, this is the alert. I want this alert, and I want to whitelist this particular alert. Boom, done. They have an easy waitlisting system to do so. So right here it is. So if I wanted to whitelist this, I could just click this, and right away I can, oh, that's the easy privacy one. I probably want that. That's actually a discuss.com. Maybe I like that. See, it's one of the computers there. I think that's what my wife's doing right now. So it's blocking ads for hers. I think that's her IP address. So
I'm on my phone.
Yeah.
I'm
But
on
I see,
Facebook. Or I'm actually on the news.
mm-hmm.
I'm reading news.
She's reading news. So you can see how easy it is just to block stuff on there. So it's actually really cool the way it works to be able to do that. They've done such a nice job of making it easier to edit. And it's going to be part of a bigger series of videos that I do that's going to be basically from start to finish pfSense. And I'm going to start, maybe I'll get the video done before 2020, but that's what it'll be, is the 2020 guide to pfSense, locking it down. So I'm going to do a start to finish with pfSense, but it's going to include sections on locking it down. So I'm going to do like a whole lockdown of pfSense video where you load pfBlocker. And the latest, I realized the last Suricata video I did was a couple years ago, so I'm going to walk through tuning Suricata in 2020. So that's, my YouTube preview is tweaking out. It is. I don't know why. Is it tweaking out in the live stream, or is it just doing it here?
Look it.
Yeah, but the video itself's playing. It's just that's tweaking out.
Yeah.
You know how we're going to fix it? It's like how you turn the radio up louder. I'll drag my face over it.
Ew.
Look at that. So, there we go. Live stream is fine. Cool. There. See, it's kind of like when the brakes go bad in your car. You're like, I don't got money for brakes, but my radio goes louder. So, what do we install default on clients? Suricata plus pfBlocker. So that's for managed clients, because the challenge with Suricata is it requires babysitting. Any type of, if you turn it on and want to do it a little better, is you have to go through the network engineering of it and sorting out things. And if the clients have anything special, you have to start going through and figuring out what those IP addresses are of the special things they're running. And for example, even with the tuning we did, we had some trouble with the client. I tried to pre-whitelist everything, but apparently there were certain things that they have an outside developer that connects to, has a special app they wrote, and the app makes Suricata think it's an attack. So you have to whitelist by rule, not by IP address to Suricata. So it becomes a little bit tricky to do. So I have to do an updated video about tuning. They've done a better job, though, on the engine to start reducing the false positives. But that is the challenge with any really good IDS system, is you're going to have false positives, but that's kind of what you want. So that's going to be another video up and coming about that. I need to do kind of a debrief. I thought about it, like, I'm still emailing all the people I met at IT Nation, so I'm going to do some debrief once I run through all the product people and learn about some of their products. Some of them are going to be some new ones, and I mentioned that they were pretty cool. We just haven't had time to set up demos. Brett has been a pain in my butt. The guy, the Brett guy, I did a video because he's selling so much. We actually haven't had a chance to sit down. He's been selling jobs at a rate quite good. So it's been pretty impressive. Therefore, it gets hard for me to goof off. But that's a good thing. I don't have time to do some of the. I want to play with a couple things and test them out, and didn't have time. But there's worse problems to have. We're also redoing our sales process, so there's going to be some videos on that. 'Cause a lot of people ask about it, and I should do a video on this because I guess I think less about it, but I did post this over in one of the Facebook forums for the IT business group about how we do our rate increases, and people wanted to know what the letter looked like, and I'm like this, like, oh wow, that's well worded. I'm like, I don't know, I don't think about it. Yeah, okay, so maybe there's more value than I thought, and I'll get that letter posted in our forums as well. So I'm very open. If you guys want to copy how I did the letter, I don't care. Some people overthink it, and I see some people trying to capitalize on thinking it's more complicated. But anyone who's spent any time on my channel knows I always preach things are not as complicated as people make them out to be. So, yeah. Oh, yes, it is on ultra low latency, as you've seen down at the bottom there. So, I'm gonna assume it's based on FreeBSD 11. I don't know for certain. But if you look that up, it's in there. So to my knowledge, it's still going to be based on 11. 11 is the current release. I do not keep up with BSD release as well. So, what do I think of UniFi's IPS IDS versus Snort Suricata? They're using Suricata on the back end. So UniFi, actually, by the way, and if you didn't know this, whether you're using a Sophos, which I think uses Suricata, I know Untangle uses Suricata. Most of these big companies use the same engine. So it's just a matter of how they tune it. So the feed, they all use a similar feed. You're using the one from Talos a lot. The Cisco people that own Talos owns Snort, or I should say Cisco owns Snort, Cisco owns Talos, so they're all one big happy family. But there's a lot of good open source feed protection information that you can get from them. But most of the companies that make firewalls run Suricata in the background. Even Security Onion runs Suricata. If you're, it's just a common one out there, and it works really well. What you're really getting when you buy from these companies, especially companies that like mask everything, so you don't know what they're running in the background, you're paying for the way they tune it. So that comes in. Tuning Suricata is tricky. So I like the way it's done in pfSense. It's very exposed. pfSense, one of the things I like about it is the fact that it doesn't hide that their IDS system is Suricata. It's not their magic IDS, which by the way, this is where some of the VPN companies, and I think FortiGate caught up in this, like they rebrand OpenVPN and they rebrand other VPN tools and add their own sauce, and that sometimes is what got them in trouble, because there was a flaw in the way the VPN was deployed, but there's not a flaw in the technology or the underlying one. So, for example, pfSense uses straight up OpenVPN. So if they found a flaw in OpenVPN, pfSense would not be at fault, but they didn't tweak OpenVPN, so it's standard OpenVPN, which has gone through secure audits, and it works. What do I think on ZFS on Linux? It works. It's not as good as BSD, but it works. Oh, Sophos uses Snort? Okay. Snort and Suricata, I said it, they're using one or the other. Most every firewall is either using Snort or Suricata. Very few companies, I think, take the time to roll their own IDS engine. It's too hard. Oh, 12 has some new options for transcoding and Plex. Got it. Proofpoint ET Pro with Suricata on pfSense. Yep. Proofpoint, that was the other company that was on the tip of my tongue that I was trying to remember, because you can get their feeds on there. They're relatively inexpensive to get their feeds as well. Someone's asking about, it's been asked about whether or not I'll do some of the more consumer-facing things, and that's why I was talking about the firewall. My challenge is, with any of these, is I don't use the product, and my reviews are not reviews per se. They are me talking about using products and deploying them for clients. So they have very real world implications. Me reviewing something, very difficult because if I don't use it, like if you hand me something, you want me to use it, one, I may or may not ever find the time to use it. Two, because I'm not actually seeing it in action under heavy use, it becomes a challenge for me to be anything more than just a guy who goes, yeah, seemed to work, turned it on, flipped the switch, the packets flowed, okay. So my review, and I have no passion to pick products I've never used and just review them. I've looked at some, I've had products I've looked at that I ended up not using, and I still didn't do a video on them, and the reason why is because I just don't like bashing products. I'm really not that person, like MikroTik. Did we use one? Yeah. That's why there's no reviews on it. I thought it was a pain in the butt to use. Everyone asked me about the MikroTik. The redeeming quality is they are inexpensive. They have a lot of advanced features. If you want to take the time to learn their network engineering, cool. You can do advanced things with it. I just don't care much for the interface. So my catchphrase, I don't have a use case for that. So, but yeah, you're gonna end up ranking Roku's. I do have a Roku. I could review your Roku. It's the one thing I do have at home that I like is the Roku. Yeah. So and here's the problem. We'll go back to the firewall as a perfect example because I think 2 people messaged me. Is the only reason I brought it up. I don't know why, if there's some recent thing about it, but it costs as much, this little box here, where's it at? It's as much as the SG-1100. So here's the blue. How much is this thing? $179. So Netgate SG. Hey, look, this guy's videos come up when I type that in. $179. I get an incredibly powerful router with a million features that is amazing. And even if you are a home user, it basically works out of the box with very little knowledge, but then has the expandability to load advanced things like pfBlocker and properly, not through ARP spoofing and weirdness and some mystery cloud box like this, can do all those cool features, and it's the same price, $179, $179. And this is discounted. This is $179. So where's the excitement that I should go buy a consumer device? And then you take the Wi-Fi. Oh yeah, and as someone pointed out, you can get the Espresso Bin V7 board, which if you don't like the fancy case, yeah, you can save a few dollars and build it yourself. Not to mention, if you have an older PC and 2 network cards, you're back to even lower cost. So yeah, that's and the same thing with the Wi-Fi. You can buy for under $100 really powerful single UniFi Wi-Fi and just configure it with your phone without even setting up the more advanced features with the controller, and it just works. So, and you've saved a fortune compared to some of the other ones. Do you use a separate network for RSys log traffic? No. What do you use for searching logs? Kibana's pretty cool. I've got some people running that. It's pretty neat. I never got around doing a video on it, but I've stood up Wazoo with Kibana, and it's awesome until it breaks, and it's less than awesome. But the same thing with like Security Onion uses the whole Kibana system. Security Onion's amazing for logging, but it's complicated. I mean, technically, it's not necessarily a separate network for RSys log, but your RSys log would probably be stuff that you send across your management LAN. So whatever your management LAN is what you want on there. And also not public. Thank you for the $5 thrown in there. Yeah, someone says I bought an old thin client. Yeah, I found you can find all kinds of cheap computers to run pfSense on. If to me, $179 is not substantial. Not it seems pretty good for a compact box with 3 network ports. That's super low wattage. But I've heard people say they like Graylog. I remember playing with it and thinking Kibana was much better. They both have some complexities that are getting better because there's better documentation than there ever has been before. But a central log, see, we do SolarWinds for so much of our client logging, and then I use Zabbix just for monitoring and notifications on all of my stuff. So for our equipment, we're just using Zabbix for most of the clients because almost everything we day-to-day administer is going to be Windows. So, yeah. South Island, New Zealand. Awesome. So, I have a friend that just moved to New Zealand. I learned all kinds of things about New Zealand. One, it's expensive. Two, it's really pretty. That's as much as I know about New Zealand. Oh, and I think Lord of the Rings was filmed there. Those are my New Zealand facts for Vlog Thursday. It looks cool there, though. Yeah, Greylog, I've seen some really nice things done in Grafana. Honestly, though, there's lots of sheep there. Yeah, that's probably true, too. I don't look at a lot of graphs. They're not necessarily my way of parsing data. So I know people get excited in like our home lab. They love all their pretty dashboards. And I think they're kind of cool. But then again, I never look at them. You know, I'm like, it's fun to show you guys stats because I know people will get excited. So I look at the PF Blocker stats and I'm like, oh, look, it's all these cool stats. And even from a day-to-day basis, I mean, SolarWinds has cool dash panels and reports that we never look at. We don't care. It was cool when I showed it when I did the review of the SolarWinds software, but it's not exactly our day-to-day operation. Most of our operations is looking and ciphering through, or sifting through, I should not ciphering, sifting through logs and looking for specific errors, solving problems, looking at alerts. Are those alerts real? And going back and forth. That's the more of what we do on there. So, thank you, Christine. I appreciate your response to the content you publish. I have an IT degree, but didn't get to flex the muscles too often. You and Krossoff have rekindled that spark. That's why I asked. Awesome. So, thank you. What else we have here? Any thoughts on the Dream Machine Pro? It's too consumery. If someone wants to buy me one, I don't know what I would do with it. So one of my staff might want one for his home. So if he wants one, I'll buy one. But I don't know. Did you have another question, Christine, or just want to thank me and Crosstalk? So that's awesome. No, thank you. It's I haven't talked. Me and Christine do another live stream together. We haven't done one in a few months, and Chris is always a good time. Actually, I chat with him kind of frequently. Me and Chris, because we've been outsourcing phone work to Chris, and me and Chris were talking some pfSense stuff because he has a client that was looking at HA, so we discussed, and because there's a really pfSense, I did the HA video on it, and I told him how it worked and things like that. So I told him it was really solid, things like that. So Chris has been great to talk to and great to work with. Matter of fact, we think we may have another phone system sold. So I know Chris isn't watching this probably right now, but I'll be messaging him in the morning and sorting out the deals on their phone system. Because one of the things is, people say, "Why don't you just do it yourself?" Well, at some point, Chris is the phone expert, and I don't have the bandwidth right now to say I want to hire a phone expert. So it's easier for me just to farm the phone settings out to Chris. He'll do the build out, the setup, get it all configured, and we'll do because these are local clients for us. He'll do all the make sure it's all set up properly, so when we go, we can just plug it in, rip and run, because we're doing all the other network engineering. We have a new company that just approved 3 different bids for sections of their company that we're redoing. They're opening up new offices. We're going to put new phone systems in for them. We're rewiring their office starting tomorrow morning, so it's just easier for me to farm some of that out to him. He's solid. He's responsive. That's one of the reasons we like him too. Hello from Italy. Set up pfSense on a virtual machine. Works well. I always prefer dedicated. I only use it in virtual machines, either for my lab or for people with very specific circumstances. I mean, if you want to stand up a really nice HA system with it, you can do that. But mileage may vary, and there's certain things that work differently when you do it inside of a virtual machine. Also, if you're having any trouble with your virtual stack and it goes down, you lose the internet and your ability to Google said problem with virtual stack. That's one of my other reasons for running it on hardware. Plus, the hardware is cheap. Even when you look at their enterprise 10 gig network equipment that's in the less than $1,000 range. So yeah. Yep. HostiFi, I'm going to be doing an interview with the owner, so he's pretty cool. Me and him talk too. He's great. So I want to do an interview with him, and I found out where he lives, and it's not that far, so I may take a little road trip. Yeah, Riley. His name was right on the tip of my tongue. I know I'm tired, but me and Riley chat all the time, and I'm going to talk to figure out a time, and I'm going to drive up to where he is and hang out and do a quick interview with Riley, talking about his business and what he's doing. And but he's a great developer, and just generally all my interactions, he's very pleasant. So that makes a difference too. Because I've met people who I say they're a good developer, but boy, you don't want to be around them. So overall, he's been great. I love all the success that his company's had. So yes, he's got a spark for business and a lot of really talented ideas around the whole UniFi stack. His ideas right. He actually understands it better than anyone I've ever met when it comes to the UniFi stuff. He's figured out a lot of back-end things by watching how the data flows and kind of figuring out undocumented features of the system. It's nothing other people can't do. I mean, it writes all to a Mongo database. He's just been reverse engineering how they write to that Mongo database. That's how he's able to fine-tune things in a better way. pfSense has 2 separate ESXi hosts and HA. Yeah, it works. Yep, you can do that too. I don't know why the playback's disappearing and reappearing. I'm not sure what's causing that. I do know I'm about to the end of this because I can't go all night because I will fall asleep. I'm getting tired and already forgetting people's names.
I'm waiting for you.
So, do I ever do any physical layer with the JTAG serial hookups and reflashing? I have not done. So I used to have an electronics store, and I used to do TV repair and board level work. So I have a background in doing board level, EEPROM flashing, and especially if you remember the BIOS chips, the ones that were the zero insertion socket in like the late 90s, we used to have the EEPROM flasher for those. So I'm familiar with doing some of the board level stuff. It's a little smaller now than when I used to do it, but I don't really take the time. Somewhere along the way, I lost my passion for doing soldering and putting together tiny little stuff. The last thing I soldered was a Wii that I bypassed the CD-ROM on, and if you remember in the very first gen Wii, you could solder a chip on to bypass it. I think that was the last time I did that. Oh, and some printers. I had bypassed when I needed to print color flyers, the counters inside of a Okidata printer by soldering some chips on to reset counters. So I don't do it much anymore. I used to do it. I have other hobbies now, I think. Maybe that's it. Or I'm old. My eyes seem pretty good still. I still can see that small. I just don't know if I want to solder that small. What do I think of XCP&G if they'll ever support native Docker? They have the ability, a plugin for it. Whether or not they have an interest in further developing it more in depth, there's some plugins for it. I don't know. I think it all depends on whether or not there's demand for it. If there's enough people asking, they can do it. It's an open source product. Someone could always add in or write a module for it, but until someone does, it's not likely. There's so many other ways to handle that too, that I don't know. I don't. I'm not well versed enough on it, I should say. We don't have that many Docker. I only have one Docker container in our entire infrastructure that we manage. One. Everything else I run is virtual machines. That way they're completely 100% siloed from everything else with no risk. Yeah, we bypassed some printers with fireworks before. You can find it in a channel. So... Now, ASNI support, they've dropped on pfSense. So, they like you to have it if you want your VPN to be fast, but it's not a requirement of pfSense. Putting containers in a VM, there's reasons you may want to do it, but it depends. There's a lot to it. It's a much broader discussion, and I have a friend who does a lot of container stuff, and maybe I'll have him on the channel sometime, and he can speak more intelligently to it than I do. But I just don't run a lot of LXC containers, Docker containers. We have our forums, the only thing that runs in Docker. So, And most of the time, people have their own solutions. People who are standing up those, they're using different orchestration tools to manage them. So it's not, I don't know that there's any market demand that's pushing XCP-NG to support it. There's so many other ways to do it that I don't see, like, where's the market demand for that? Because they're really talented at coding stuff. Someone says, can you put ZFX in XCP-NG? They did. Someone asked for a lot of other things. They did those. They've done a ton of work to it. So their code refactoring has been pretty amazing. But it's if there's not a market demand for that particular thing, then I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you're doing. It comes down to use case. And most people, because there's other systems to manage it, they're not doing it. As I see Grayson talking about using LXC containers. Convenient for you, Adam, but is it convenient for enough people to make them actually write all the code for it? That's what it comes down to. They are very in their forums. They spend a lot of time listening to their audience, so to speak, and the users. But there has to be enough users for them to go, okay, we'll focus that because it will gain us, market share and things like that. That's kind of what they're looking at. And mostly, because I have more and more, I just got 2 more requests for people to get off of VMware, and over there we're looking at more. We're moving companies off of VMware, we're moving companies off of Citrix and over to it. So, yeah. What was my favorite part from IT Nation? Meeting lots of people. That's really, in the Linux world or even the hackers conferences, there's, all the tracks, as they call them. So you go to the track that's on one particular security topic or a track on the business topic. But the hallway track, the unofficial track, is my favorite. So hanging out in the hallways, talking to people, just having conversations, that is always where I learn the most at those events. And IT Nation was no exception. Had wonderful conversations with people. Got to meet people who were fans of the channel. I met a few people who worked for other companies that were also fans of the channel. So I had those kind of conversations. Were awesome. That was my favorite part of it. So. Do you run VMs on your FreeNAS in production? Never. I don't. I have played with the VMs inside of FreeNAS, and I found them to be lackluster and problematic. And I'm someone who knows how to work VMs, so I don't have an easy answer. They were always problematic, and I never took. Once I spent more than 20 minutes troubleshooting it, I said, "Why am I spending 20 minutes troubleshooting this?" So. And my friend who was I was going to consult him when I asked him about a problem I was having. He says, I got all of mine out of there because he was running them for a few months and he got everything up and running, and he moved away from them because he just had too many problems. It just doesn't, between the interface and the Beehive hypervisor, it doesn't feel as well developed. A for effort. I've been wanting to do some stuff with it, but man, when my Linux box wouldn't even consistently run and I kept having problems, and one time it locked up and I had to reboot the whole server to get the VM unlocked. I was at the command line doing it. I'm not doing it through the UI. I'm at the command line and it still was locked. So it could be me not knowing what I'm doing, but it shouldn't be that hard for someone. Like, I work on VMware. I work on XCP-NG. I'm a little bit less versed in Hyper-V, but I have worked with Hyper-V as well. All those, I never spent that much time troubleshooting simple problems of just getting systems stood up and loaded and stable. So that's kind of my feelings on it. As you know, I'm a FreeNAS fanboy, but not that part of it. It's VMs all the way down. So I've never bothered. You can do nested hypervisors. It's actually an option in XCP-NG. You can nest a hypervisor in a hypervisor. I've never done it out of lack of desire. I know it's an option. I've done it only one deep for demos, but that's as far as I went. User error. Yeah, probably. I won't argue that there's some user error involved with me. There is no doubt about that. Oh, look, I got mail. Occupant. This is for me. I'm the occupant. It's probably a bill I don't want. Uh,
Your hair ties came in.
oh, hair ties. Hey, I'll give a shout out to the hair ties.
The long hairs? They're called the long hairs.
The long hairs. Yes. Look up the long hairs. And I got to meet the long hairs at a charity event. If you've seen, I posted on my Twitter about it. And I have hair ties. So that's what exciting things arrive at the Lawrence household here. Yeah. So, I'm now part of a global fraternity. So, global fraternity for men with long hair. Am I in the kitchen? Yeah. What is this, the kitchen, honey?
Yeah, that's part of the kitchen.
This is part of the kitchen. Yes, I'm in my kitchen.
You don't know if you're in your own kitchen.
Well, no, it's the. Here, I'll make it bigger. I have a man tail. See, I have long hair. For those that didn't know, because it's usually up. So there, that's the.
Look at that gray.
Yeah, it's really gray and it's kind of long. So, anyways, yeah, I'm sitting. It's kind of. It is the kitchen. The reason I say it's kind of a kitchen because if we move this down some. You'll see that I'm sitting. Hey, there's the mop. There's the floor. There's the gaming kid. So, and then that's kind of a dining area over there with the fireplace. I've done videos over there. This is kind of like an eating area because then on the other side of this is my TV. So there.
Oh.
There's the home tour.
Where's me?
Oh, and then the wife. The couch is over here.
Couch is right underneath.
Yeah. And the wife's on the couch making snide comments about doing videos. So someone says I look Indian. I actually am. I'm Cherokee Indian for those that are curious. Is that an OLED? Oh yeah, that's not an OLED. That is an LED, but not an OLED. It's a 70-inch TV with, does anyone, here's a question. There's 110 of you here. I would do this as a separate video if anyone wants. Should I do a review of my stereo system? Do people care about that? Like, that's something I use a lot that I could talk about. So it is a consumer thing, but it is also something I actually know about because I do have all of it. So, because it is a Pioneer Elite THX system with what do you call it? Serwin Vegas speakers, a 70-inch TV, and it's in Serwin Vegas subwoofer. I used to have Onkyo. I went to Pioneer Elite. Onkyo's nice. Don't get me wrong. I really liked my Onkyo stuff, but the Pioneer Elite is where I'm at now. And I have a video, and it's actually old, but the gaming server, which is here, with the what are you playing? Skyrim.
Doing a sneak.
Yeah, the gaming system there is a video on, and this is also including the screen and everything. This is a 25-inch 100 and a high refresh rate, 144 refresh screen. So, but there's a video I've already done on that. I haven't upgraded it in a while, but it ain't broke, don't fix it. So there's that.
You need to get cornrows.
Yeah.
Funny.
Clips are really nice too. So, the clip speakers, I've heard a lot of them. I really think their design is you like the head on there too. The head that's.
His name is Francis.
We're not allowed to call him the head. His name is Francis, is what my son just said. For those of you who didn't hear, but yeah.
Yeah, his name's been Francis for years.
I know. It's Francis. I know that. But anyways, back to the other question. The clip speakers, really nice. So the Serwin Vegas have always been. I love deep bass. So the Serwin Vegas have always been really solid on it. And one of the reasons why is each one of those speakers next to my TV weighs around, I think it's 110 pounds or something like that. So having that really solid bass and really long throw gives a lot of depth to it, plus the subwoofer on it. And I have 4 Serwin Vega speakers, and then my center channel's a higher end Polka audio, and then a Serwin Vega sub, and like I said, driven by the Pioneer Elite. And don't ask too much model because I just can't remember. Oh, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I could do a cribs tour, but I don't know if anyone's really walk through the house and show this. I think there's pictures.
Everything anyway.
Yeah, there's pictures that you can. I'm a fairly public person. If you even find my subreddit, my handle on Reddit's Flipside Creations, you'll find even posts of my living room where I do talk about the audio and things like that. So, yeah. Well, yeah, it's one thing. If you're in an apartment, you can't have the really loud bass. That's one thing that, like, I could care less if I lived in an apartment, but the bass problem would be a problem for me because I like the loud music. Is this open source talk? Everything's open source. Yeah. So, nonetheless, I'm going to wind on down. Yeah. Love watching movies loud. That's what I'm about to do. I currently am finishing up the Jack Ryan series, and it's excellent if you haven't seen it. So, not that I ever give recommendations of what to watch because I'm not much of an expert on that, but the Jack Ryan series on Amazon Prime is awesome if you haven't seen it. So, we're in season 2, and there's my daughter. Those are hair ties for guys.
Small parts not for children.
Yep. My daughter is now an EMT. Almost. She's an EMT in training. So, as far as I know, we're doing how they got attacked tomorrow. So, nonetheless, I am out of here, folks. Thank you for joining, all 104 of you, and thank you for those of you that threw money at me. Do you rip 4Ks and have media server? I'd love to see videos about that if you do. I don't know how much you can talk about that because YouTube has problems when you talk about that. And honestly, no, I mostly watch. I have a Roku. I have a Plex server that gets used once every couple months. So I'm not a big movie hoarder anymore. Used to years ago, but not so much.
If you have Prime Video, I recommend you watch Psych. This is a good show.
Psych is your recommendation?
Yeah.
That's what Marcus likes, is Psych. So, that's fine.
It's my favorite show on there.
It's your favorite show.
It's a great show.
It is a great show.
Well, both my kids like Psych. Oh, that's not around. Is that still a new season's coming out?
No.
Okay.
No.
It's over.
It's 8 seasons, though, so
There's-
you got a lot of content.
It's 8 seasons, a lot of content, they said. Anyways, I'm going to sign off so I can go back to watching shows. Thank you very much for joining. Please post in the forums. That is a place where I'm trying to be very responsive and get to everyone's questions that maybe I did not get to here. So, thanks again. Oh, I will mention this. This is a wallet, and it might be worth reviewing. So, this thing is really cool. I can open it up here because it'll show my Big B and Tesla card. But this is an RFID wallet, and it's really cool. Yeah. Smash the like button. 96 people, 30 likes. Can some of you press that button, please? People seem to like it when I ask at the end. So, awesome. I'm asking at the end here. Hey, thank you very much, Grayson. Enjoyed watching it. And I included some PF cents. So, always a pleasure to hear from you, Grayson. But once again, I'm going to sign off. Head over to the forums.lawrencesystems.com. That is where I try to respond to everybody's questions, provided I understand. And when I don't understand, I usually just ask, what are you talking about? So, and try to help out everyone. So take care and thanks.